Now that we understand why computer science and computers are so important today, you might start to think, when was the first time humans realized that computing is important and we need a device for it? To answer that question, we must go way back in history, to the beginning of computing. There came a time when the scale of a society was greater than a single human mind could keep track of or manipulate. It was humanly very difficult to keep records of every single person in the society or how many cattle a person possesses. Thus, the abacus was invented. This was back in 2500 BCE, and the device looks something like this. This is basically a hand-operated calculator that can add or subtract many numbers. It can also save the current state. Over the next 4,000 years, humans developed many clever computing devices. For example, the astrolabe. This device allowed ships to calculate their latitude in the sea. Or the slide rule. This assisted with multiplication and division. Soon, humans realized that proper computing can be very advantageous in the battlefield. As a result, the military was one of the first to use computing to solve complex problems. One of those complex problems was firing an artillery shell. With varying wind conditions, temperature, and atmospheric pressure, it was very difficult to fire these cannons in the proper direction to hit their targets. The first solution they came up with was creating range tables. These tables allowed the gunners to look up different environmental conditions, and the tables would tell them which angle they need to fire. This worked so well that these tables were used in many wars. But there was a huge problem. If the design of the cannon or the shell were even slightly altered, a completely new table had to be generated. There had to be a better way. Enter Charles Babbage. He was one of the first to take on these problems. He knew a device needed to be created to mechanically calculate numbers and tables. So he started working on creating that device. Ada Lovelace, who is regarded as a mathematical genius, worked as Charles' assistant, and together they devised the analytical engine. This is the first time in history the idea of a device taking data and executing operations in a sequence and saving it to a memory came to existence. But the analytical engine was ahead of its time. During that time, the equipments required to make such a device was not available. But later on, scientists used the concept of this analytical engine to create the world's first computer. Another name we have to mention if we are talking about computer science is Alan Turing. Alan Turing was a British mathematician. During his masters in Cambridge University, he came across a problem known as the Entscheidungs problem or the decision problem. To solve that problem, he invented a machine called the Turing machine in 1936. The Turing machine is a theoretical device that, given a set of rules, it can simulate any computer algorithm, no matter how complicated it is. Alan Turing also played a significant role in deciphering Enigma code during the World War II that saved hundreds of lives and shortened the war by months. He also created the Turing test. Imagine you are chatting with two different people by text, and you can ask any kind of question and you will get a response. But in this two different people, one of them is actually a computer. After having a conversation, if you cannot distinguish between the computer and the human, then the computer passes the Turing test. Alan Turing states that a computer can be deserved to call intelligent if it can deceive a human into believing that it is a human as well, thus giving birth to artificial intelligence. For his brilliance and outstanding contribution, Alan Turing is known as the father of computer science. However, the ending of Alan Turing's story is a quite tragic one. It is said that he died of poisoning, and it was he who took his own life. I highly recommend you to read upon Alan Turing, and there's a film created, The Imitation Game, which is based on his life. You can go watch that as well. Based on the history and development, computers are divided into 5 generations. Each generation is defined by a significant technological development that changes fundamentally how computers operate, leading to more compact, less expensive, but more powerful, efficient, and robust machines. Let's quickly go through these generations. The first generation is between 1940 to 1956. These early computers used vacuum tubes as circuitry and magnetic drums as memory. As a result, these computers were enormous, literally taking up entire rooms and costing a fortune to run. But after the invention of transistors, vacuum tubes were being quickly replaced by them. This is the beginning of the second generation. Transistors were a big improvement over vacuum tubes. As a result, computers became a little smaller, faster, and cheaper. However, the level of heat generated by the transistors started damaging the computers. The second generation lasted from 1956 to 1963. In the third generation of computers, it is the first time in history computers started using keyboards and monitors and came packed with an operating system. All of this was possible because of the invention of integrated circuits. This was a massive improvement over transistors, and computers became smaller, faster, and more efficient. The third generation lasted from 1964 to 1971. The revolutionary creation of microprocessors started the fourth generation. Microprocessors allowed all the computer components, such as CPU, memory, input-output controls, all integrated into a single chip. As a result, computers became more efficient and more affordable. The fourth generation lasted from 1972 to 2010. And today, we live in the era of artificial intelligence, the fifth generation of computers. These computers come with voice assistants, which are basically programs that can understand and process human language and respond intelligently, and goes all the way to self-driving cars, to virtual reality, and even humanoids. These intelligent robots can assess the environment and its surroundings and learn from it, just like humans. The only thing is, they are much faster and more accurate than a human can ever imagine. As we humans are hooked onto our cell phones, Netflix, or YouTube, these machines are learning. And many speculate that one day we humans might get overpowered by our own creation. But what do you think? Do you think robots will take over the world one day? Or do you think our humanity will always have an edge over feelingless robots? Only the future will tell. But what is for sure is the next few decades are very important for all human race. These are exciting times we're living in, and what we do now will shape our future. Let's stop here for now. On the next lecture, we'll look at how a computer actually works. Are you excited? See you next time.